In Mississippi, a memorial service was held for James Chaney.
The decision had been made by family members and local leaders and others that they want to keep this very quiet and then low-key, rather, did their eulogy.
I want to talk about is really what I really grieve about. I don't grieve for Chaney because of the fact I feel that he lived a fuller life than many of us will ever live. I feel that he's gotten his freedom. We're still fighting for it.
Dave Dennis's speech was a turning point in the summer because everybody wanted him to say the usual things that you would say at a funeral. And Dave Dennis just couldn't do it. He challenged the people at the memorial, and he challenged the whole movement.
You see, we all tired. You see, I know what's going to happen. I feel it deep in my heart when they find the people who killed those guys in Neshoba County.
All the different emotions, things that have been going through, leading up to this particular moment, began to come out, boil up, and we might call this. And then looking out there and seeing Ben Chaney, James Chaney's little brother, I lost it. I totally just lost it.
Don't bow down anymore. Hold your heads up. We want our freedom now. I don't want to have to go to another memorial. Tired of funerals. Tired of it. Got to stand up.
I'm pausing because I want us to take a moment of silence. Nolan Wells' funeral was today. And the things that happened today happened 50 years ago as well. The pain is still there. So just a moment of silence to gather ourselves, please. Well, good evening, and thank you for joining us for our critical conversation tonight, where we will talk about how to resist evil. I wanted to open with this old clip where Dave Dennis spoke at the funeral of James Chaney. I saw it years ago when I was doing some research on another project I was working on, and it just stopped me. It moved me. And it just stopped me. I watched it over and over again because I could feel the pain and the agony and the frustration and all of that stuff. And I feel like that same pain and frustration is not only here with us still, but it's getting worse.
That's right, Reverend Sue. We are clearly living in evil times. And the assault not only on Black people, but on migrants and brown people and legal and illegal protesters, women, and anyone of this regime they have decided is worthy of being attacked, and it's getting worse.
And I call it evil, but it's not anything new. Black people have been fighting the evil called racism since we were taken from Africa. We have survived because we have resisted. It's a mighty story. It is just a mighty story. And tonight we want to talk about how to resist in these days, where we are fighting not only whiteness, white supremacy, but also the encroachment of authoritarianism, where all of us going to be real surprised if we don't keep moving and stop this stuff in its tracks.
So we are blessed tonight. I'll say it again. We are blessed tonight that we have as our guest, the Reverend Naomi Leapheart, Washington, Reverend Naomi is a preacher, a teacher, and an activist. She develops spaces of spiritual candor, disruption, reflection, transformation, and action. And she is the founder of Salt, Yeast, Light, a consultancy that supports individuals, congregations, institutions, and groups in the work of radical inclusion, courageous spiritual practice, and faith rooted in advocacy.
Reverend Naomi is the first ever Strategic Partnerships Director at Political Research Associates and a social justice research and strategy center that provides strategic insights and actionable research that identifies, disrupts, and competes with movements and institutions that undermine democracy, justice, and human rights. In her role, she leverages PRA's research and communications capacities to support effective organizing and and advocacy by movement organizations around the nation and the globe. Reverend Naomi, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I want to thank you for being with us tonight because I heard you speak about resistance at one of the gatherings that you all end up going to so often, and I was so impressed. And I want people to know how important it is to resist evil and how to do it. And I think that's critical for people to engage in this conversation because people are tired. Like Mr. Dennis said 2 years ago, they're tired. They're tired of the corruption, the lying, the assaults, and the attacks on our constitutional rights, tired of an impotent government and a fully compromised United States Supreme Court. So welcome. And if we could start with you, please sharing how and why you got involved in teaching the tactics and the practice of resistance.
Well, I want to say thank you again to you, Rev, and to the Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference for engaging these necessary conversations in season and out of season, let me say. I was in the kind of movement-facing side of ministry leadership. Way back when, today is actually my ordination anniversary, which
Happy anniversary.
is lovely. Thank you. When I first stepped into professional ministry, I was a church pastor. I was leading a congregation, and then Trayvon Martin was killed. And you know, it's one of those moments in life where you're never the same. I was never the same. Particularly when I saw all of the equivocation going on among people who call themselves Christians. And so I slowly pivoted over a couple of years to faith organizing and have been involved. I used to work with Faith in Action, a federation of Faith in Action here locally in Philadelphia where I live, did some faith-based LGBTQ plus advocacy. And now I'm in this wing of movement that I call kind of infrastructure development, capacity building, right? I work for a research organization that for 40 years has been monitoring and analyzing the far right. So just like we know that there are whole institutions on the far right that are surveilling and otherwise analyzing us. I mean, there was this expose, right? The Heritage Foundation president did his doctoral work, right? Studying us, right? Not out of affection and respect, right? So we know there's a long legacy of opposition research done by the far right to understand the hearts and minds of people in more progressive political contexts and spaces. Well, PRA, Political Research Associates, where I work, was founded by a woman who said, you know what, we need on the left an organization that can help us understand the threat of far-right governance. I mean, she thought of this 40 plus years ago, right? And she saw it coming. She said, we're rolling into authoritarianism, right? What we know is that authoritarians are elected the majority of the time, right? So a society can find itself here having done all the things, having voted, right, we can still find ourselves here. So she had the prescience to establish this organization. And so now I find myself in, first of all, far right rooms. Because part of opposition research is being where they are to hear them say the quiet parts out loud. Again, I did not know this was a thing. However, organizations like PRA have made it our burden and our business to be in those rooms so that you don't have to collect data, stories, stand face to face with the foot soldiers of the authoritarian regime and bring back that intel. Not just because we're piling up information about or knowledge about, hoarding knowledge about the far right, but so that we can design better strategy because we more fully and precisely understand the opposition. It's like what any sports team does when they are watching the tape. Is that a dated thing to say, watching the tape? Watching the film, watching the clips of the other team, right? You're not just watching to watch for entertainment. You're watching to study what they do, how they design their plays so that you can design better plays to ultimately defeat that opponent, right? So same idea, right? If our resistance can be informed, is what we like to say at PRA, inform your resistance. If our resistance can be informed by analysis, and we can operationalize that analysis, perhaps our campaigns are stronger. Perhaps we can sustain our movement for longer, right? Because we know what we're facing. As you say, we are exhausted. He said, I'm tired of going to funerals.
Absolutely.
Right? Same. Okay. So with information, we might have greater clarity about how to move, right? Let me say this too. Black folk, as you started to say, Black folk understand this notion of opposition research. Okay? We have had to, as a matter of survival, understand white supremacy.
Absolutely.
Okay? We know the rules of the game that we didn't invent, that we didn't want the invitation to play. We know those rules, right? So that part of the brilliance and tenacity of our people is that we then designed our plays with a full and astute understanding of the opposition we face. And so that's the work I've been doing every day for the last 3 years. And so I know way more about the far right than I thought I would. But I'm so glad, right? Because part of what I feel called and compelled to in this moment is to bring that back to my folk, right? To interpret what we see in a way that will resonate with us and then accompany us, journey alongside us as we figure out, okay, now what are we going to do next? So that's what PRA does. That's the role I have there, is to help translate, help interpret, help connect the dots for people in movement who want to know how to resist.
Ooh. So 2 questions. Number one, how do you stay sane doing that? I mean, how do you,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can't even imagine how you stay sane. That's number one. And the second question is, when you have taken some of the results of your research to our people, what has been the response?
Mhm. So I am not a sadomasochist. I am not interested in, right? There are things I will do for the movement, for my people, on behalf of, okay, I'll take that burden. But I am never going into a far right space by myself.
Okay.
A
Okay.
rule I have, right?
Okay.
So I got colleagues with me. I got peer, organizations, peer organizations, send folk. I mean, this is a thing that, SPLC, send folk to the thing.
Mhm.
So we have our little group chat. We're going to have lunch together. My hotel room is right upstairs.
Mhm. Mhm.
So between sessions, I'm going to just like wash my face and just be, right? So I have a lot of caveats and stipulations around that govern my infiltration in these spaces. Because the other thing we know is they're trying to recruit us, right? The multiracial far right is growing. And first thing they want to do is recruit you. And so anyway, I don't do every opportunity to infiltrate, like I have my own boundaries and limitations. So that's how and why I haven't. I come from fairly conservative Christianity. And so being in an evangelical or fundamentalist space, while, violent in all the ways, is not unfamiliar to me. And so that's the other reason I say, okay, but I'm not going to the manosphere, I'm not going to the, so that's how I've tried to, and I've got, I got a family at home that loves me, and I've got people who, you got to have that, because it won't work. How has this been received? I will say with gratitude.
Okay.
People are already operating at limited capacity. Think about the people that are working on front lines in nonprofits, academic institutions. I mean, people are, and they don't have time or capacity to do this research, to read the book, to do the thing, right? And so people are grateful. Like, y'all did this, so we don't have to. And you're willing to share it with us without regard for, this is not proprietary. It's not, none of that, right? And so people are overwhelmingly grateful. Thank you for doing the work that we don't have the time or capacity, never mind the interest, in doing, right? The other thing people want is, okay, can you contextualize this for me? All right, so you just told me how the tech bros are doing this and that or whatever. Help me understand, okay, how does this manifest in my neck of the woods, right? What's going on in Pennsylvania where I live? Who are the bad actors here, right? Or how does this land in Black urban communities versus, right? So it's been really important for us to give a bird's eye perspective, but also tell people how this is going to show up on your block.
Does it help them come up with strategies to do things? Have you seen them come up with specific things in response to what you've taught?
Yes.
Can you share some of that?
For example, at the end of May, I was giving a presentation, a workshop around this topic. How do we resist? How do we understand the far right? How do we develop strategy? So there was a little bit of teaching at the front end, but mostly we were action planning. So I had these prompts up. People were in small groups, and they got scenarios. Okay, we're going to strategize our way out of this scenario. And this is a scenario, I had several. Pick the one that is most like the scenario you are actually facing right now, right? So we're not dealing completely in the abstract or in the hypothetical. This is a scenario that is coming to your door. And with a structure and a process, people at the end of that hour or whatever it was, had some, for lack of a better way to say, marching orders. They were like, okay, here's how I need this. This is the investigation I need to do to know who are the authoritarian soldiers in my county. Here are the maps that have already been created, kind of hotspot maps that I can use to fix. Again, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are tech organizations. They're like, okay, what can I do to help fight? Well, we can map what's going on in Wayne County, Michigan. That's where we're from. Wayne County, Michigan. Or what's going on in Philadelphia County, Pennsylvania, right? So we use that data. Okay, we got 3 megachurch pastors here who are part of the New Apostolic Reformation. That would have been something that they learned about in the presentation part, right? Okay. How do we interrupt what they're doing? Oh, this one is running for office. Oh, this one, right? So it's really teaching people to fish is how we describe it, right? We're bringing to you the research, but we're also bringing the methodology. We're bringing to you questions that you can then go explore yourself, right? So I find that people are less overwhelmed about all of the information that I'm giving. Like, this is overwhelming. I mean, and it can be despairing too. Like, man, we are so far behind. We are behind in terms of resource gathering. We're behind in terms of political capital. We're behind, right? This is depressing. Let me just name that, right? But what pulls us from despair into hope is not that we ignore the reality. Like, it's bad, y'all. It's bad, right? But we say, even though we have this reality, we are facing this reality, here are the avenues of possibility, right? So if you give people a framework to map out the possibilities, they leave with, okay, I got my next step identified, I've got these websites that are resources to me now, right? I can call Naomi. I can email Naomi. She said I could call her, right? And so people leave feeling empowered and not disempowered, even though they have a deeper understanding of actually how bad it is, right? That's the like beautiful thing, because I'm bringing bad news, right? Which is different from ministry. I'm trying to bring good news. I'm bringing bad news, right? But if I can bring the bad news and then accompany you as you think through, okay, but there's an avenue here. All right. We can exploit this thing here. JD Vance and so are fighting in the media. How can we exploit that?
Because that's what the right does. That's what the right does. Yes.
Hello. Right. Any little crack, any little fissure, they're wedging that thing open. Right. And so we need to be just as enterprising and advantageous. Right. We need to say, here's a fissure. This seems to suggest that there is not a monolithic, yes, on the right. Okay, how can we exploit that? Right? So people love the information, but they want it to be packaged in a way that resonates with their specific context and situation.
Have you found that African Americans have maybe been a little bit afraid of or reluctant to resist in that way? I mean, you're studying the right, and we're trying to do Jesus, and what they're doing is not Jesus. Clearly, it's not. They can say Christianity all they want, but it's not Jesus.
It's not Jesus.
Have you found that there has been a reluctance of Black people to even listen to you, number one, and then become engaged in doing this kind of work?
Well, I would name two phenomena that I've seen. One is, child, we've seen this before. This the same old, this the same old United States.
Right.
They've been on it, right? And to some degree, I affirm that, Black folk ain't new to authoritarianism in the United States.
Right.
That's true. But I don't want that sentiment to lull us into they're going to do what they always done. There ain't nothing we can do, but right? No. There is something peculiar and unique about this particular manifestation, right? We got social media.
Yeah, that's killing us.
We got AI. You don't know whether what you're looking at is real or not, right? And so there are some distinctives about this authoritarian moment. And so while we may be clear that the United States ain't never been a democracy, yes and yes and yes, there are some, the song "To Serve This Present Age," right? There's an invitation to us to serve this present age, this present manifestation of authoritarianism.
Yeah.
It's our business to understand that. So that's one phenomenon I've seen. People are like, listen, it can't get no worse than what, and I'm like,
You
baby,
ain't it
yes, it
right.
can.
Yes, it
Yes,
can.
it can. Right. So that's one thing. I think the other thing is, again, I get it. People are like, I'm not taking my black behind out there with the
No.
they killed the white woman and the folk didn't even so what I look like, right? Again, I get this, right? Our risk calculations are going to be different,
Okay.
right? We can't necessarily just do what all of the awakening white folk are doing in this moment, right? But that doesn't mean that we don't have a lane to occupy in this resistance. That doesn't mean that there aren't unique things that only we can bring to this resistance fight, to this movement, right? So, yes, I want to acknowledge the danger at hand for us, the risk, the costs associated for us. That just means we need to do what we've always done, which is be creative about how we're going to register our dissent.
Yeah.
How are we going to disobey in ways that, right, that still protect ourselves,
Yeah.
right? So those two perspectives, if they're unchecked, can immobilize people, can compel people to just stay on their couch and watch the show,
Right.
right?
Right.
But they don't have to. And I don't think they should. I think our faith leaders, our community leaders need to be pushing back against those, not because they don't make sense. They do make sense, but because we have a role to play and we have a stake in this, right?
Right. Right.
Like, so, those are the things I've heard. Those are the things I've heard.
They I, I I'm pausing because I was when I'm doing my teaching and preaching and stuff, I'm always trying to remind people we've been here before. I need for us to be, and a lot of stuff that people do, I say, they get out of the Bible. They just get it out the Bible. So yesterday,
mm.
I have a problem with the Bible, but that's not this conversation. But anyway, uh,
I want to
so
have that one too. Yes.
yeah. But yesterday I was talking about Karens, and I said, I want us to stop acting like Karens is a new phenomenon. Let's stop it. It makes you mad and all that, but we have had Karens in our lives. And so I went to Genesis and Potiphar, and his little wife. Zuleika, I think her name is Zuleika in the Islamic and the Jewish scriptures, and how she wanted to, get it on with Joseph, and Joseph said, "I
Mm-hmm.
ain't doing it," and
Mm-hmm.
continue, 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 and then some kind of way he gets, near her, and she's trying to seduce him, and she grabs him, and she grabs that little coat, and he keeps running.
Yep.
So when she realizes that she has this coat, then she wants to go into the Karen mode. Oh, he raped me. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I
Yep.
said, I
Yep.
need for you to know, and I need for us to know, because I think it gives us some energy for resisting, to know that a lot of things that people do in a lot of different areas, they take things that are in the Bible and they twist them and manipulate them and use them to justify what they're doing. And I want you to breathe through that. I want you to breathe through that and understand
Mm.
that God has been with it, because the only reason Joseph was okay, although he had some issues, but Joseph stayed with God, and that's the only thing. I'm not saying staying with the Bible necessarily. I'm saying stay
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
God. And
Yeah.
I think that our people, that has been our saving grace. We just put our hand. I don't know where we finna go, but we're going somewhere, and we're going with you. And so I think that
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a lifesaver thing. But the resisting thing, some people are just so um, imprisoned, shackled by Western theology, by the
Yeah.
colonized mind, that they can't do it. And so that's why I
Yeah.
think your work
Yeah.
is extremely important. So talk to me a little bit about some of the specific resistances that you have taught people to do? And have there been any times when they say, oh, we can do that? Just share with me a little bit about that.
Mm-hmm. So, the first thing I want to say is that authoritarians are weak.
Yes, they are. They
Let
are.
me say, the authoritarian regimes are incredibly fragile, which is why I keep coming back to, y'all, there's some cracks here that we need to exploit. They're fragile and really impotent in lots of ways because they only have the power essentially lent to them
Right.
by us and our institutions.
Right.
So think of it as authoritarian regimes are like the tabletop, but the tabletop needs legs to stand. Tabletop is nothing
Right.
without the legs, right?
And we're the legs.
You break the legs,
Mm-hmm.
weaken the legs, tabletop comes down, right? So that shift in understanding, I know for me, just that shift in understanding authoritarians is helpful to me. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to be like, man, this person has all the power. What can I do?
Right.
Here's the National Guards. Here's the, right? These performances of strength mask, right, deep fragility and insecurity.
Yeah.
And if we would stop propping up the table, withdraw our support,
That's right.
get our friends to withdraw their support.
Come on.
They don't even have to come over here to us. They don't even have to come over here to us. They do not, and this is the part I struggle with personally, right? They don't have to become radically inclusive. They don't have to change their minds about what they think the Bible says and means. What we need them to do is withdraw their support.
Take that money.
Hopefully, the Holy Spirit, sparks a change, a transformation so that people actually become more deeply loving and human and what like this, the end of this evolution, the end of this withdrawal is what I would call freedom, what I would call salvation.
Mm-hmm.
But even if it ain't, right? We just need them stop propping up the table.
Stop paying for our own oppression.
Exactly. And there are different ways that people prop up the table. Now, there's some obvious, like, y'all, this particular entity is bankrolling the, right? Or, this institution is the lobby for the powerful, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. But there are so many other ways that the table stays horizontal just by people doing their jobs. People are like, I'm just doing my job. I'm just doing my job, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if everybody does that, then the authoritarian wins by our compliance. This is when, you hear people say, don't comply in advance.
Right.
Compliance is this notion that you do what power demands.
Right.
Even ahead of time, before they demand it of you, right? Cooperation is giving the power what it needs to work. So it's, well, I'm just following the policy. The policy or the authoritarian behind the policy needs your cooperation, needs you to hit send on the email, needs you to put your signature, needs you to prop open the door, right? So what I ask people is, how can we transform our lives so that we are living like lifestyles of non-cooperation and non-compliance, right? Not waiting until the big thing happens where they calling you to the carpet and you got to decide, will you choose Jesus or will you choose? No, it ain't gonna happen like that. It is not gonna happen like that. It's gonna happen in the form of press the button, do your job. It's going to happen in the form of, well, they told me to go left. So I thought I had to, they in authority. I thought I had to. Or when we say things like obedience is next to godliness, or all the kinds of things we say.
Yeah. They don't think any of that. God don't have nothing to do with it when it comes to what they're doing.
Right.
Really.
Right. We need to internalize the idea that sometimes
Yes.
the holy
Yes.
thing, the godly
Yes.
thing is
Yes.
disobedience.
Yes. Say that again. Say that again.
Sometimes the holy thing, the godly thing, the faithful thing is to disobey.
Right. Right. Right.
That shifts everything. What if God is telling you to refuse?
Come on. And I think that
Mhm.
we're so caught up. I don't know that we understand the origin of this white thing. I was reading about how Columbus came from Europe, and
Mhm.
Europe was it was a skanky place. Reverend Naomi was skanky. It was
Skanky.
poor. It was poor.
Smelly, the
It was
hygiene,
smelly. They
the
didn't take
whole
no
thing.
baths. I mean, it was,
Yep.
disease. They didn't know how to do their crops, so they didn't have an economy. They wasted everything they had. Then they wanted to come
Right.
out. But the thing is that their whole lives, their whole ethos, the European ethos is built on competition and
Mm.
winning and really a form of narcissism. And if you're not winning, then you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And so when they weren't winning in Europe, they came to Ireland. We lived in community. We didn't know nothing about none of that. And they fed us that stuff. And I think that Randall Robinson wrote that the Europeans, made the mistake. They mistook and taught that wealth was equal to worth.
Yeah.
Wealth was
Yep.
equal to worth. And so we,
And then they
generation,
baptized it. They
yeah,
baptized it. They said that
yeah.
that was God's design.
God, yes, 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 yes. And I think, and the only reason I'm bringing this up is because sometimes I think that when we think about resisting, we don't think about the seed bed of it. Where it
Mm.
came from and why we're like this, and
Mhm.
say, what the hell? I don't have to have. Listen, we all these trillionaires. You don't have to have. What you don't need 900 houses and 14 cars. I mean, you just don't need it. But
Yeah.
people, they would rather do that because gives them worth. Their wealth gives them worth than to help
Mm.
the people who don't have even enough money for bus fare. And
Yep.
so when we think about, if we can make ourselves think about that and stop trying to be like them, that's one of the best
Yeah.
first things I think that we resist. I don't have to be like you. I don't have to do all that stuff. I gotta be who God made me to be. I gotta do that and learn how to do that. And not be afraid of it because that's
Yeah.
our power, right?
Yeah. I think you're so right. The myth that we have fallen for,
Yeah.
that because listen, I don't want to win against this authoritarian regime
Mm.
and get the power to govern if it
Just to be like
means
them.
we have not become the kinds of
Right.
people
Right.
who will not wield power as a weapon.
Right.
Right? We want to be, our authoritarian regime would be kinder and gentler,
Mm-hmm.
more benevolent than, but we still got to have the have and the have nots now. We
Right.
still got to
See.
have, right? No. Are we becoming the kinds of people who, when we have power to govern, we do so in a way that is life-giving and not death-dealing?
Absolutely.
That's the moral question for people of faith and conscience right now. It is not simply about the political win. That's important. I want that.
Mm-hmm.
It also has to be about some kind of spiritual victory where we have become the kinds of people
Right.
who don't rule in this way,
Right.
right? And so I think you're right. I think this pillar strategy, what we call the pillar
Pillars.
strategy. So remember I
Yeah.
said the table has legs, or think about the building, think about an architectural building with, a top, a roof, and then there
Mm-hmm.
are pillars
Mm-hmm.
holding up the roof. The pillar strategy says, let me see what pillar I have access to and influence in.
Come on. Yeah.
So let's use faith, because we know religion, organized religion, is a pillar propping up authoritarianism. What do I have access to in this faith pillar who needs to defect, who needs to withdraw?
Right.
And how can I make a plan to get this person out of the pillar? Now, again, I'm not trying to convert them to be, I just need them to stop giving your power
That's it.
away to the authoritarian.
That's it.
Right?
That's it.
You could spend,
Stop.
Think about, and we're all in many different pillars.
Yes.
Right? So
Name some of the
us,
pillars. Name some of the pillars.
There is civil service, civil society. You know somebody that work for the government, that work right? Again, people doing their jobs. But by virtue of doing their jobs, they are lending their power to the authoritarian, right? And I don't say this to shame people. It ain't about shaming you.
No, it's just
about,
a reality.
Okay, how can we inoculate you, protect you, support you as you withdraw? You just refuse.
Absolutely.
Every day, you just like, right?
Not doing that, right.
And it might not be the splashy, sexy, shiny resistance. And you know what? It never has been. History records we can play the tapes of the people who did the big and the shiny. But by the time they got to that, you had individuals making small, I'm putting small in quotes, tiny daily decisions.
Right.
What would become the Montgomery bus boycott that we look back on, we know that was every day people had to decide to be inconvenienced every day, right? And they needed the support to be able to take that kind of risk. That's the other thing I want to say.
Right.
We talk about, we supposed to just, go out there and no. People need to be held. Boundaries make it possible to take a risk.
Right.
Right.
And that's the Christian part of it, because Jesus is about community and supporting each other. So
that's it. It's my mentor, Lenise Pinkert, likes to say, she calls it collectivizing the risk.
Come on.
That's what Christian community is supposed to be. That's what church is supposed to be. You ain't gotta carry the risk all by yourself.
Right.
We're gonna spread the risk around.
Right.
So if they come get me, they gotta get you. They come get you, they gotta get me, right? And so this notion of carrying the burden together, right? Making a plan. All right, we are all involved in blah, blah, blah denomination. I ain't gonna say no names. That denomination is moving like a pillar, either by their silence or by their outright complicity. So how can we, if we're in this denomination, make a plan to get this denomination to withdraw its support? This is an organizing strategy. Okay, so who do we need to get to who has enough influence that if they pull out the pillar, they're going to take a whole bunch of people with them, right? This is what I mean by thinking of it as a chess game, right?
Yeah.
So the pillar strategy, there's the education pillar. Most folk have some sort of investment in the education project, right? Whether we're talking about higher ed. So how is the education pillar in my community propping up authoritarianism, right? Did my school district agree to comply in advance and take these books off the mandatory reading list? Are there stipulations around what teachers can teach and not teach in my local, right? How do we get our school district, for example, to stop cooperating? Seeing things happening in Chicago.
Right.
And, there are examples of folk who are like, you know what? No, we're not doing that. No. Come make us. Mayor Johnson in Chicago. he has an added a posture of make me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
You
love
know,
that.
yeah,
Whenever our person said, do you have a slide that illustrates
the pillar.
the pillars? Yeah.
Yes. Let me pull it up, and I want to show the slideshow, and then I want to share my screen. Okay. All right. Let's see. Let's see if this works. You should be able to see a slide that says pillars of support. Can you see that?
I do. Do
Okay.
y'all see that? Everybody should see it. Yeah.
Okay. You got it? Okay. So let me start with this powerful quote. Gene Sharp, who was a political scientist, he studied nonviolent resistance movements. He sums it up. By themselves, a ruler can't do nothing. Can't collect taxes, can't keep the trains running, can't repair the roads, can't make the steel, can't milk a cow. The authoritarian cannot do that. Who does that? People do
The
that.
people, right.
We provide those services to the administration. If we would stop, then the authoritarian could not rule, right? So this is the anchoring kind of philosophy around pillars strategy, right? And then here, what do we mean by pillars of support? Well, any institution or section of society that is supplying the regime with power. So, I mean, this is endless, right? We could think of military as a pillar, law enforcement as a pillar, legal and the judicial system as a pillar, right? All of these are pillars. So here's a visual, right? So you got the roof of the building is the regime, the authoritarian government. And then you got these pillars propping it up. These are just a few examples. Media, huge pillar,
Huge.
right? Organized religion, business, critical pillar, right? Military. And so what we're trying to do is sever the connection between the actors inside that pillar and the regime, right? So for example, the military pillar, all right, so we got a lot of people in that pillar, soldiers themselves, officers, generals. So whose defection, whose shift of loyalty, whose withdrawal can so weaken the integrity of that pillar that it no longer is a reliable support for the authoritarian regime. Because what happens is the authoritarian is like, oh, that y'all ain't gonna help me. Let me move on too.
Yeah.
Right? Let me see. This next slide shows business pillar possibilities, right? So we got owners and CEOs, they might be furthest from us. Like I can't just pick up the phone and call XYZ CEO. But I do know I am a consumer and I know other consumers. I might know people who work at XYZ business, right? I might know some people in management, right? Again, the point is, how can we get to the pillar, get significant enough withdrawal that that pillar is no longer a reliable support for the authoritarian regime? How might we break down an education pillar, right? All kinds of people in that pillar. Everybody from students and families to elected leaders who are over our school institutions, et cetera. Right? So this is just a way of breaking down. I like this because it breaks down the size and weight of what we're facing, right? Like, I'm not going to be able to take down the White House. Like, I'm not going to be able to take down the Supreme Court. But I do have access to pillar people, pillar institutions, right? And so this makes it a manageable thing, I think, for everyday people, Questions we might ask about the faith pillar, right? Who's at the center of the faith pillar? and this depends on the tradition you're talking about and the right, but who's most proximate to us? Who's like on the outside of the ring that we can pick up the phone and text or call? We have immediate access to, right? So I'm gonna talk about the faith pillar right now because
That's where we
it's
are.
the one I'm hanging out in.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people think, oh, the problem is politicized religion. The problem is that they over there legislating bad theology, bad, right? And so what we got to do is stay away from politics. The problem is that we've got this enmeshment of political ideology and theological claim. But history has shown when people of faith who are anti-authoritarian decide to, take their toys and go home and not get engaged in the ring, systems of injustice actually get stronger.
Mm.
That the status quo gets reinforced when we decide not our fight.
Right.
So we actually should keep, well, in my view, keep the gospel political.
Well, because
it's political.
Is. Yeah.
It's political.
Jesus,
keep it political.
Right.
This is the kind of last thing I'll say about pillar. Remember I said, pillar strategy says there are sources of power that the authoritarian is siphoning off. What are the sources of power in organized religion? Here are some examples. Authority. So if I put on my collar, you put on your collar, somebody put on their vestments, people still defer.
They
I mean,
do.
even though, Christian nationalism, even though people still defer. That is authority that we have, that we possess, that we just give over to. So it's the reason Trump can be holding a Bible. And he understands what he's doing.
2
He is
Corinthians.
taking the authority that we're supposed to have and using it for himself and his own goals. So authority. Human resources, right? So, that pastor is not just coming as an individual. That pastor has XYZ numbers of members, or that denomination has, right? We have human capital that is leveraged. Because if MAGA can get that megachurch pastor, then MAGA got that megachurch.
Mm-hmm.
Skills and knowledge. What are the kinds of things we know how to do that other pillars don't know how to do? That get leveraged by the authoritarian. So, when the pastor from Detroit, I'm so sorry to say, is at the, the Trump, the RNC or whatever, and praying,
mm-hmm.
the regime knows, we don't know how to pray. But let's get this guy from Detroit to pray and use all of the language, and he's got the turn of phrase, and he's got the, right? Material resources. This is when, they used to have KKK meetings in church basements. And this is, you have given your material resource, you let them use your building, right? Intangible factors. This is like, society has been socialized around religion. You say God, you put some God on it and people don't argue. Or you bring in the cleric and people step back or whatever, right? Things we have been socialized to do in response to religious authority or religious presence. And then sanctions, right? Like, so if the regime can call Naomi, Reverend Naomi is a sinner, or Reverend Naomi is a Jezebel, as what they called Kamala Harris, then what they're doing is they are operationalizing a punishment structure that we have in Christianity for people who are called sinners and people who are called Jezebels. They don't have to know nothing about who Jezebel was, what the biblical.
So part
All
of
they know. Mhm.
resistance in the faith community in terms of this pillar is really teaching people the gospel, the gospel, the gospel, and go away from
How
all
about that? How about
all
that?
those words that keep people all caught up. We have so much power that we don't
Mhm.
use, and we don't do the gospel because it is antithetical to capitalism. It is an opposition to capitalism. So let's just keep everybody scared. Now let's keep, because that's what they use. They use fear and then, manipulation and all of that. Let's keep them afraid, or they're going to hell. All of the language, all of the
Yeah.
verbiage. It's just
Or a promise of heaven on earth.
right,
To your earlier point, like,
right.
don't you want to be like me? Don't you want to be
Right.
rich like me?
Right. So
Yeah.
so we are so caught up in the capitalism and the colonialized mind and all that. We want things, we don't want God. And so they know that, and so I guess what I'm wanting us to know is what are some tangible acts of resistance that we can do using any of those pillars, as the faith pillar or the military pillar or the whatever, something that they can, we're doing pretty well with Target. Most of us are doing pretty well with Target. We ain't
Mhm.
going. I'm not ever going to, and it, it takes some sacrifice because we get used to
Sure.
being comfortable, right? If
Absolutely.
we could find a way to, wean ourselves, not just to go
Mm.
all the way up, but wean ourselves off of some of the
Mhm.
stuff that we're giving money to
Mhm.
pay for our oppression, that would be something that, that's resistance. But we don't know exactly what to do. And I don't think we're willing to make the sacrifices.
Yeah, I mean, that I was going to say that step one is always to decide
Hmm.
that you are willing
Hmm.
to pay the cost.
Hmm. Girl,
Because
I let go
if
of
you wait,
Netflix and I like to die. I stopped doing
oh
Netflix.
Lord,
Oh my
oh
God.
Lord,
I thought I was going
oh
to
Lord.
die. You hear what I'm saying? Woo. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I had to put that in there. Sorry.
I mean,
Oof.
it's that point. Like, can you? We're in like recovery. We're in
Yes.
withdrawal. Like, this is an
Yes.
invitation
Yes.
to recovery,
Yes.
y'all. Because we are actually, my mentor calls it empire affective disorder.
Ooh.
We
Ooh.
are actually hooked on American empire.
Yes. Yes.
We just are. And the gospel is actually an invitation to recovery.
Right.
It is. But we know what we know about recovery is this is a daily decision, y'all. This is a daily
Daily
decision.
decision.
And you need help. You cannot do it by yourself. Recovery teaches us you don't have the power to do it by yourself
No.
on your own strength. You
You need
need
some help.
accountability. You need
Yeah.
help. You need accountability. You need
Yeah.
somebody to do it with you, right? So the first step is decide that you are willing to pay the cost. And
Absolutely.
even like itemize that thing. Be
Come
like, okay, I'll
on.
pay this cost and not that cost, right? You need
Right.
to be really clear
Right.
because when the rubber meets the road, you ain't gonna have time to deliberate and think and whatever.
Right.
Decide what your cost will be.
Yeah. Yep. What you're willing to let go of. Natasha Robinson has a question. She says, I am an administrator in higher education. If I can help with the displacement of support from the pillar, how
Yeah.
do I determine the cost that comes with those who may be crushed
Mm,
because of their refusal or inability to also divest?
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we have to do what I'm calling this inoculation work. We should think of this as important as like the action of defecting itself.
Right.
Have we prepared the soil, for lack of a
Right.
better
Right.
metaphor? Have we made sure, okay, y'all, we pulling out, y'all staying in, but here's the contingency plan. We need to think it through all the way, right? We also need to be strategic. Like you can defect in a way that causes you to leave. You can also defect on the inside.
Mhm.
So there might be some people who are like, I need this job, y'all. I need these benefits, my kids, whatever it is.
Right.
So I'm not willing to do that. But with a little bit of protection and cover, I can do this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I
And
can
I
do
think,
this.
and part of resisting, I think, if you go back to the Montgomery bus boycott, because everybody wasn't walking, everybody
Everybody was
wasn't doing,
walking.
no, some people, but some people did some cooking and some people did some driving and some people, there are so many ways to help people resist. So you have
So many.
categories. It's a movement. The resistance is a movement.
Who gonna be out there when I leave the building?
Come on.
Who gonna be out there? The first, whenever actions I participated in where there was arrest,
Right.
we had to think through ahead of time.
Right.
Who's inclined? Who's the person who has the heart for being there when the person comes out of custody?
Right. Right.
That's a specific kind of person, right?
It is.
And so, no, you're not gonna be arrested. Don't take no picture of me. But you that person who's like, what you need? I got your water. Come here.
Right.
Come here. Like what? Yes, we need that. Yes. I can give you a ride to where it's gonna go down. Okay, I'm doing right. So I don't want to say, specific, hey Natasha, specifically do this and so in your, higher ed administrative capacity. What I'm suggesting is find out who else is with you. Like,
Yes.
okay, maybe it's just two of y'all. And you're like, we got to do something. Okay. Figure out what would weaken this institution's ability to capitulate, cooperate, comply.
Yeah.
Is it that my president needs pressure from another university president? Is that what will move? Okay. All right. So now we got to build a network of university presidents who can pressure each other and call. Like that's, or is it we make it impossible for the school to run because the student, or whatever, right? And so each institution is different. Each pillar's gonna need a little bit of different. But your questions should be, all right, I need somebody else. Nothing can happen as a solo traveler. Who are my little people? And then the question is, what would weaken this pillar's or this institution's support for?
So resistance is like working against this American white thing about rugged individualism. We ain't gonna get nothing done with rugged individualism. This is about thy kingdom come, or being in, Jesus was about community, love your neighbor as yourself, yada, 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 the stuff that people don't want to talk about. So if I want to break away from Amazon, I want to break away from Amazon so bad. I just want to, I've not yet done it. I've not yet done it.
Pray for me, because
I get mad. Because I get mad. Here's my sentence to me. I don't want to pay these folks for my oppression. I don't want to pay you to hurt me. So if we can have meetings, if we could gather in community, because I want us to take something back from this conversation that we could maybe put in our community. If we could just have a meeting, okay, we in this community, this is what we finna do. This is what we're going to do. And we, bounce around some stuff and stress the thing that we're getting away from rugged individualism. We're getting away from that principle of capitalism. We are moving it, you want to call it whatever you want to call it, but we're moving away from that. And we are going to be here to help each other, not the system,
Let's make a plan to celebrate the small daily dissents, the small daily disobediences, right? That's the thing. Because people need to feel like these small wins matter.
Absolutely.
And if we only applaud the
big things. Yeah. No.
Like, well, I ain't gonna. But if every Sunday, everybody who this week stayed out the Target or stayed out the
Come
or whatever.
on.
We
Yes.
about to, right?
Yeah.
That stuff matters. That
And
stuff matters.
perhaps resistance can, you're the expert. I'm just saying. A little bit of pressure, personal pressure. I was talking with a friend of mine, and she was saying, "Yeah, I'm gonna go to Target." And when she said that, I stopped breathing, and I looked at her, and she knew. I didn't say anything, but I looked at her. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That we are in this together. We have to do that. We have to. That's mafioso. I mean, the mafia, they put pressure on people, don't they? Doesn't the orange man put pressure on people? You're gonna do what I say. I mean, I'm just saying there's a way to almost force community. So they are whatever they're doing, but we can force or create and strengthen a community of resistance. So if you had a group of people who say, okay, uh, somebody told me that fabric softener is not good for the environment. Okay, so if you get a group of people, you talk about fabric softener is not good. I like my clothes to smell good. Well, there's other ways you can do it. You know, Julie and our communication staff to get them little balls and put the oil on them.
That's what we use. Yeah.
Come on. Many people haven't heard about that. But if we do
That's
that,
right.
we are making ourselves better. We are making the environment better, and we are taking away their money. That's the only thing they respond to. And so I need to shut up so that you can give people some more specific things to try to take to their communities and just try. Just give us a couple of good resistance things that they can try.
So, I mean, along the lines of boycott, right? Boycotts are a form of non-cooperation, right? It is refusing to invest and or making the choice to invest. So I think of there is, I'm going to patronize this. I'm not going to patronize that. So you've heard of reverse boycotts, right?
Yeah.
The idea, I'm not going to not support you. I'm going to support. We're going to inundate this business with support because they put the sign out there that said, you know, whatever, no kings or whatever they might have done, right? So think about boycotts, both in terms of boycotts in the traditional sense, I'm divesting, and reverse boycotts in
investing.
Okay? Because we want to reward
like
good behavior.
Costco did not give in to,
Why would a business refuse to comply?
Right.
If we haven't shown them, we still gonna support. We're gonna support you. We're gonna double down on our support.
Come on. That's right. That's
when
right.
you, right?
That's
so
right.
Reverse boycotts and regular boycotts. Think of these as we need corporate campaigns. We just do. We do. And it's more than the Amazons of the world or the Teslas of the world or the FedExes of the world. I mean, these are all campaigns I'm thinking of that have launched and have happened in this period. It's also small businesses. The engine, what do they say all the time? The engine of the American economy, so whatever. It's small businesses so, and they have a lot more to risk and to lose and to, right? So if we can coordinate our campaigns to, one, invest where those businesses are doing what they got to do to resist authoritarianism, and we reward them for that. And here are the businesses that are complying, right? And with small businesses, it's a lot easier to pressure because you're like, okay, we got that thing in the paper. We got people going down there every Tuesday at 10. Like, I think it's a lot easier and much less demoralizing, in my view, to mount a small business boycott campaign, right? So again, this requires really drilling down on, okay, in my zip code or in my county or in my state, here are the bad corporate actors. Amazon is, okay, Amazon. Who's that in my community?
Right.
And you You want to build your base. I mean, it's old-fashioned organizing anyway,
It
right?
is.
You
It
need to
is.
build your base, right? It
Right.
can't just be you. Who else agrees with you?
Right.
Who else, if you had a conversation with them, at the end of the conversation, they would be clear, oh yeah, that's a bad actor. I need to know,
Right.
right? Build your base. Build your base. You want your pressure to be public. You do. You do. Because ultimately what we want is for that bad actor to withdraw publicly. Like that's the ideal situation.
Mm-hmm.
What if Amazon, I mean, pie in the sky, but what if Amazon said publicly, we are no longer doing X, Y, and Z, right? Huge, huge.
And
And I
that
will say, some businesses ain't gonna do it publicly.
that's right. But we still have to just be creative and communal, I guess, and make some decisions. Like I used to love the Washington Post. When Jeff Bezos took it over, I stopped subscribing. It broke my heart. It is hard to break away from something that you've been connected to for a long time. When I always tell people, I know old people who people who are old still have AOL. I remember when my son told me to stop doing AOL, I thought I was going to die. What do you mean? No, don't do it. So it's a
Mhm.
ripping away of
Sure.
a bandage or something that you have, but you have to make some decisions and just say it's going to be okay. We don't,
Gonna be okay.
so if we don't, if we're not willing to risk and change and suffer a little bit, we cannot resist.
Yeah. And what I want us to do is have enough mutual aid, have enough contingency planning so that people don't need to feel like, oh my God, my life is over if I give up that thing, right?
Right.
Like you ain't shopping for diapers at the Target. Come over to we got the diapers.
We got the diapers.
We got the diapers.
Right.
Or you need a ride because Walmart is closer than, you need a ride to okay, we're going to organize. Okay, on Saturdays, we're going to give people rides from the church to such and so and back home or whatever it is, right? There needs to be something standing in the gap for people.
Yes.
Because folk ain't going to give up something for long if they
Right.
haven't found something to replace that thing.
Right. Right.
So
yeah, it's Naomi, we could be talking about this forever, but I think that it is important for people to understand that there is a cost to resisting. It's not easy.
yeah,
When
Yeah.
Black folks got tired of being beaten and lynched and all that, they just left the South. They crushed the economy.
there you go.
They crushed it.
There you go.
Karen Hunter suggests to people, if you want to break up some of the stuff with the election and all the stuff, have some Black folks go on and move up to Idaho. Move to Idaho. Move to places you don't have. Move, do something. Get from where you are to where you think you can make a difference and put a chink in the armor, because it's possible and we have the power to do it. But I think everybody listening, and if you have people, that are not listening, you have friends that are not listening, you should tell them to listen to this later, but also to get in touch with Naomi. She's the
Yes,
bomb.
let's talk it through. I mean, one of the things I'm proud to do and happy to do is kind of coach, help community. You
Yeah,
need somebody to kind of walk you through it. I
yeah,
put up on the screen now a website I want everybody to go to and poke around. Ashley Woodard Henderson, who is a friend of Proctor we know
yeah,
Ashley,
yeah,
has developed this website, this initiative. It's called Choose Your Fight. It's literally how we might protect ourselves against the ongoing theft.
yes,
They already stealing the election, right? So this is Choose Your Fight from now to January 2027. So really focused, specific. It's about election protection, election defense. And you click on start and it walks you through how to build a plan to fight back against the inevitable attempt or ongoing attempt to steal our voting power and our elections. So this is a concrete tool that is newly launched, and I want to share with people so that, you know, again, if you got a framework and somebody to kind of walk you through the steps of planning, a lot less kind of nerve-wracking
Yeah.
than the alternative.
Yeah. We're going to give your website to everybody. I want everybody to be in touch with you.
Yes, please. Yes. Yes.
I just want us to not sit in saucers of despair. You know, all the
Yeah.
stuff that's going on, it can bring you to tears, and it's okay to cry, but after you cry, you know, little Sally Walker, in the white community, they say, "Rise, Sally, rise, wipe your weeping eyes." But in the Black community, they say, "Shh, put your hand on your hip and let your backbone slip." You know,
There
you
you
cry
go.
for a minute and then
Cry
get
and
the
fight at the
heck
same
out.
time.
That's
Cry and
right.
fight at the same
That's
time.
right.
I
We
mean, you
have the
know.
power. We have the power.
Yeah,
That's the only reason we're still here, is because we have resisted.
we
We're
got
going
it.
to put some things in the summary that we send out, some websites in addition to what Reverend Naomi has presented for you to go to. I want you to go to those websites and look things up. Have some conversations. Get with your girls. Get
That's
with
it.
your girls,
That's
sit down
it.
and talk about it and come up with a plan. And, you know, and things have a way of growing on their own. It's organic when it starts
Mm-hmm.
to work,
Mm-hmm.
because when you start to do something and
Mm-hmm.
you know, something changes,
Mm-hmm.
people see that. So all we have
Mm-hmm.
to do is take the first steps. We have and as Daniel said, people have to keep on moving. You
Keep
cannot
moving.
sit in your house and mourn and cry, turn on the television and eat some popcorn. That is not going to save us. You have to get up, and whatever it is, something you got to do to keep moving, to keep
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
energy and your faith
Yeah.
just burning and
Yeah.
pushing you.
Yeah. Don't be overwhelmed by the magnitude of the task. This is a huge undertaking we're trying to do
It
here,
is. It
right?
is.
But it is done brick by brick and step by step,
Yeah.
right? So you can do your thing
Right.
and know that it is contributing to the larger work, right?
Right. Right.
You know, Jesus went step by step,
Step
person
by
by person,
step.
right? You know,
Yes.
like bringing revolution,
I
person by
know.
person.
Come
And
on.
you know, when the person left Jesus's presence, right?
Right.
Now they are an ambassador for
Come
the
on.
way, right?
Right.
And so know that your efforts will be multiplied, right? If you're just trying to influence everybody you encounter,
Right.
you know
It's
what I'm
gonna work.
saying?
It's gonna have an effect.
We're gonna get there. We are
Right.
going to get there.
Yeah.
Because you know what they don't have, it's morally bankrupt over there, y'all.
It
So
is.
yeah, they got the money and the this and the that, but they don't have no soul. They don't
They
have no,
don't. They don't. They don't
they
have
don't
no
have no,
souls. Oh
so
my gosh.
there's no there, y'all. There's no
No.
there.
No.
So we have the power of the living God.
That's right. That's right. Right.
And we got some sense. We got a conscience. We got, you know, we want to do right by people. So we've got what it takes. And the primary way, Alice Walker, I think, said, the primary way we give up power is by thinking we ain't got none.
That's right. That's right. All of
I
us
hope
have
that
it.
you take away from this that we have the power that the authoritarian needs
Right.
to do his thing.
Right.
We got that power.
Right.
So instead of giving it to them,
Give it to.
let's wield it for ourselves.
That's right.
Yeah.
Whew. I feel a little bit better. I've been burdened all day because of this
That
of
funeral.
that
Yeah.
young man.
No,
I just can't.
I don't
Um,
even,
but
can't
I
even.
But I want us to think about what Reverend Naomi has said and shared, and get in touch with her, and we'll send the summary out. And then do us
Absolutely.
a favor. Do us a favor. If you try some of the things, if you get your girls together and say, "Look, we this is what we're going to do. Ain't nobody going to go to Macy's for 4 months." I mean, just
Yeah.
get yourself started. Just get yourself. And it is hard. It's hard. It's hard, but it is doable.
Yep.
Please let us know what you're doing, and let us know how it made you feel, and how, if it's spreading, because we can do this. We can do this. We can do this. Thank
Yeah.
you, Reverend
Yeah.
Naomi. I just love
Thank
you.
you.
I
Thank
just
you
love
so
you.
much. Thank you.
I
I love you too.
um Reverend Damien, are you here? Or do you want to say a few words before we show our closing clip?
Yes, let me again say thank you so much, Reverend Naomi and Dr. Sue. I had the chance to hear Daniel again this week
Did you?
last week at the Haley Farm. And I made
Mm.
sure I got my election defense scenarios booklet. I just went ahead
There
and
you
bought my
go.
booklet.
There you
Um,
go.
but but I think the conversation just lends itself to how everybody is feeling or feeling as though there is no recourse. Reverend Naomi, you have laid out what you contributed and devoted your life to speaks to that already. But what freedom trainers are doing, what you just shared with Ashley, what we're saying is that there are so many people that are engaged in strategic, non-cooperation, strategic and sustained creative strategies that we hope that folks were able to pick up some things today. And what we're
So,
just two quick asks, we ask that you share this critical conversation. Those who are joining tonight, please share this critical conversation with your networks, on your LinkedIn, on your Facebook, on your Instagram, on your TikTok, if you still rock with TikTok. Please share this powerful, specific conversation. And obviously, as Mama Elaine was asking, Reverend Naomi provided us with head, heart, and hand, and then with specific strategies that are already producing results, right? Because I think when we heard the Freedom Trainers piece in January, was it Reverend Sue, that you all had already trained 500,000 people, I think at
We
that
did.
point, right? So
Yeah.
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 I was unaware of Freedom Trainers until January, but ever since I was introduced to you all, continue to follow the work. So again, another website, which we'll make sure that we share that as another resource where you have, like the civil rights movement, because what you made me think of, Reverend Naomi, and I'm done here, was in Why We Can't Wait, where you have the layout where obviously they laid out those 10 pieces of everybody cannot participate in the
Right,
boycott. What will you do? Who
right,
is your
Yep.
next of kin?
right.
What is your emergency contact, right? All in
That's
Why We
it.
Can't
Come
Wait,
on.
those 2 pages that laid out how you were going to contribute. You gonna
That's
make
it.
some cookies, you gonna make some
Come
phone
on.
calls, you gonna drive, you gonna pray, you gonna fact whatever. So
Yeah.
it is a 22nd century way in which you all have approached it. And thank you so much for all that you have been doing. And thank you for coming and sharing tonight. So we hope that folks were engaged. Hopefully folks were blessed by what was shared. And then lastly, the points that you made about the decisions that you make to divest, what we want to surely do, we want to be hearing from people, right? The ways in which maybe you are deciding to non-cooperate or divest. But then you also said, Reverend Naomi, think about what you want to invest in.
That's
So
right.
what we, of course, invite you to do is to, of course, continue to invest in the Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference. We are doing our 15 for the Future campaign, small resources. So if you're deciding that you're going to divest from Netflix, or you're going to divest
Come
from Hulu,
on.
or you're going to
Come
divest from
on.
HBO Max, or you're going to divest from something else that's taking your money that you possibly don't even know yet, which is,
That's
I
right.
advise you get Rocket Money to see if you're getting
Right.
subscriptions taking out your money that you don't know. But if you're going to divest, we want you to consider divesting so that we can continue to do this work of sharing and engaging and continuing to offer a platform for those who we know are doing the work to continue to share and bless you. So again, you see there are the multiple ways in which you can give. And if the Proctor Conference has benefited you before, or somebody else that you know, we ask that you also ask them if they possibly be willing to invest. But again, we thank you so much for sharing with us tonight, Reverend Naomi, and thank you, Reverend Sue, for providing us with the kind of facilitation and engagement that helps us all leave the stream a lot better than we came. So thank you all so much. And thank you all so much for joining us on tonight. We appreciate you.
Thank you. We're going to end this night with just a last clip. This Reverend, see, I'm calling everybody Reverend, Dave Dennis, the young man as we saw at the beginning. This is his son and him, and I just want you to listen to this clip, please. And then we're going to say goodnight.
Honored. I'm trying to hold it together. I'm so honored, David, to have your father, Dave Dennis, here. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for everything that you've done. David, as we talked about yesterday, Your father played such a huge role in this movement, but there's so much more to the story that we don't even know.
Yeah, they played a video of my dad giving an impassioned speech, and I think we need to know the backstory of that speech. And that was at James Chaney's funeral. And so Goodman, Chaney, and Schwerner, 3 civil rights workers who came down to Mississippi after a church was bombed, and they were killed. They were murdered in Neshoba County. And I think the thing about that story that hits home is my dad was supposed to be in the car with them when that happened. And as his job at Corps was to send them on these missions, and he was supposed to ride with them. And he had bronchitis, and he had a bad cough. And Mickey Schwerner said, "Don't get in the car with us. We got it covered." And they never made it back. And so my dad delivered this eulogy for James Chaney, and it really exposed the atrocities that were happening in Mississippi, and it changed the course of the movement. And you know, as I'm telling this story, I think it's important to note, like, that meeting happened at the COFO office right next door to here, Jackson State. And we're here in Jackson State, you know, in this beautiful HBCU surrounded by Black excellence. We have sports centers celebrating Black History Month. Kimberly, you are a pioneer as a Black journalist, and we have so much to celebrate. And it's a reminder of what people sacrificed and was taken from them to get us to this moment. And I don't want us to lose that, and to remember, you know, what it takes to win in these movements, what power looks like, and what it looks like when you fight against bigotry and racism in places like Jackson, in places like Mississippi, and all across the country. And so it is a full circle moment to have this right here in Jackson State and at HBCU, and my dad here. There's so many other people from the movement who did not make it, whose kids did not get to spend that time with them. So it's just, you know, an honor to be here and to have my dad with me as we talk about it.
What do you want to ask your dad? As we sit here today, you just talked about Black excellence, and we are examples of the sacrifices of people like your father.
Yeah, so Dad, I mean, you know, how does it feel to, you know, you did so much right up the street from here, and now you are, you know, you're here, and we're watching what victory looks like. What does it feel like for you?
Well, this is a very emotional moment for me. It's a crazy circle. But right now is that one of the questions I'm always asked is that, was it worth it? I mean, a lot of my friends died. I was with Megner 1 hour before he was assassinated. Chaney, Goodman, Schwerner, 24 hours before they were murdered. And I lost a lot of friends, Hollis Watkins and others, as Davey called those names. When I look around me, though, and look at the kids behind me, and visit the HBCUs, especially the work I'm doing with Jackson State now, is I say to them quite often now, it was worth it. You know, I wouldn't trade one moment, one beating, one time in jail for what I see right now is. So it might look difficult, but right now, what I can see is the future is very bright. And young people just keep working. And God bless the HBCUs, because it was for the HBCU, I wouldn't have gotten an education, wouldn't be here now.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your sacrifice.
And with that, I say thank you. And let the words of Mr. Dennis just kind of sit with you as you leave this place. We can do all things, even get through this mess. We can do all things. God bless everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. Join us in another month. We're going to be talking about how do we minister, nurture, support our Black boys when they are under such attack by this brutal system. So I hope to see you there, and I hope really that you take this conversation about resisting, take it to heart. Let's do this. Let's do this. God bless. Take good care. Bye-bye.